With the Wii U now here, I thought it'd be time to reflect on the system that is now leaving us. I wanted to review the console, the motion controls, the online aspects, and the overall appeal of the system. I'm going to take a hard look at the system as a whole. Now, I have been reviewing Wii games for almost 5 years now, and while it may sound like this is just going to be another Nintendo fanboy just spouting off how great the Wii is going to be, you're going to see that I have no problem criticizing this system for its missteps and mistakes along the way. While I'm reviewing this system, I thought it'd be fun to show off some of the games that I've been reviewing over the years. I'll be impressed with anybody who can get every single one of these games that I'm showing off, because I review some pretty obscure ones. Now, the Wii had so much potential. It was a powerhouse in the beginning when it came to sales. It succeeded in its goal of creating a simple system that families could use and enjoy. And while those other systems that Nintendo put out were family friendly, this one actively said, "Hey Mom and Dad, this is cool for you to play." It was the motion controls that made it popular. The only issue was they were kind of a cheat of motion controls. They wouldn't accurately read your position of your hands, which is what everybody who bought the system was expecting. It kind of used broad movements to make the motion controls work. It wasn't until halfway through the life cycle of the Wii that they actually upgraded the motion controls to make it read your motions one for one. But unfortunately at that point, I think people already started to sour on the Wii because it wasn't what they originally expected. I don't think any game ever did as well with the controls with the first version of the Wiimote than Wii Sports. Nintendo knew how to use the limitations of the Wiimote perfectly, and it seemed like there were just too many publishers out there who didn't know how to program for the tricky motion controls for the first Wiimote. Now that changed with the Wii Motionplus add-on, but the damage was already done. Now the controller itself was perfect for moms and dads. It had a few buttons and it was simple. I think one of the reasons for the success of the Wii was the familiarity of the controller itself. It kind of felt like a TV remote control, and that was something that parents and grandparents were used to holding. It didn't overwhelm them with lots of buttons and controls, but simplicity came at a price though. The gameplay and the titles that are released were often too simple. There are quite a few lazy ports of PS2 games, and when they weren't that, they were just quick cash-ins of games with a few mini-games that just weren't any fun. Now I know I'm kind of making it sound like the Wii didn't have any good games, because it really did. But unlike a lot of people out there, I've played most of every game that has come out for the Wii. I would say about 40% of them were not worth your time, and the other 40% were just worth the rent. But that leaves about 20% that were really well made and fun games. However, a lot of those great games were lost in a sea of average and bad games. People started thinking of the Wii as a dumping ground for every bad game the publishers could think of. It wasn't really true, but unfortunately it's the perception that a lot of people got. The system itself was easy for kids to use, which was exactly what they wanted to do, so they succeeded in this perfectly. Now I wish the same could be said for the online aspects. They were barely scratched at all. Mario Kart Wii had some fun online play, and I did find some online matches in a couple shooter games out there, but for the most part they were a ghost town. Another touted feature was the Virtual Console and the WiiWare shop. Now I think this was a mixed success. I think the WiiWare offerings were fantastic. The publishers were really limited by space issues, and maximum file sizes allowed for a WiiWare game. But a lot of the publishers took that challenge and ran with it. They released some truly great games like Lit, Fluidity, and World of Goo. I'm not saying they're Nintendo exclusives, but they were fun to play on the console. The Virtual Console, on the other hand, was at first fantastic. There were games from other countries and games that younger players most likely never got to play, like Super Mario RPG for one. The problem was that I think the games were overpriced in my opinion at times, and there would also be months or so where there wouldn't be any releases at all. It's like Nintendo gave up on the Virtual Console, and that's a shame because it could have been great. Well, now when I'm reviewing a game, I usually just say buy, rent, or skip. However, none of that applies now because the Wii U is out, so I decided to just grade the overall console itself in like an A to F format. So I looked at everything as a whole, and I see that it did a great job of appealing to the base that it was going for. It wasn't trying to go for the hardcore gamers or the old school Nintendo fanboys, but it did release a few games for them just to appease them though. But the problem I see with the Wii was its flood of poorly made games for it. Even the good games were often lesser versions or better versions of the Xbox or PlayStation 3 versions. It's really not the publisher's fault because the Wii couldn't do the same graphics as the other systems, so they had to make something different for the Wii, and that often meant something worse. I hope Nintendo does a better job of releasing some more old school games for the Virtual Console, and learns from their mistakes that they made with the Wii. And from all the news reports, it seems like they have. So I think a fair grade for the Wii would be a C or a C-. Now before I move on to Wii U reviews, I thought it'd be only fair to do one more Wii review, the one that so many people have been asking me to do. So my next review is going to be the last story. Thanks for watching.